Let's spend 10 minutes together to change your life.
Isn't it awesome? As soon as we can recognize our own strengths and our own weaknesses, our likes, our dislikes, I think it's so important to do a self assessment, maybe every 6 months, but then just sit down and go, okay, where are the gaps? What do I need help with? And I think the other thing is we've got to realize that we're starting these businesses not to run ourselves ragged, but to have a life and permit yourself to have that, give yourself permission to have some time off. And it's okay not to be a slave to your phone. Your children are only little for a small amount of time, or you do want to do other things. Go off and do it and have fun. Be happy.
That's our philosophy. We're gonna have to hang out.
Yeah, okay, done.
You want to start?
Yeah, so I mean, as you scale, the systems you put in place are crucial to really optimize and kind of keep everything together. Can you just talk about some of the systems you put in place to help with that?
Yeah, look, anything I was doing more than once had to have a system in place. I was a big believer in writing down and getting everything out of my brain down in black and white. And I think that's probably the other challenge I see a lot of business owners these days face, is that they've got all the knowledge, but it's in their head. Now, if the business is reliant on that person, it's not a business, it's a job. So cut that out. You've got to start putting everything down in black and white. You've got to be able to delegate those tasks to others. So the systems need to be there. Now, something that a lot of people are surprised about, with 130 properties from 2016 to 2019, I didn't have a property management system. I was running purely 100% on Airbnb. I used Xero for bookkeeping, and I had a real estate software. That's it. So when we see all this automation come in these days, it's incredible. And I think, wow, what could I have done with the automation, the software, the systems that are, available to us now. But I do say this carefully, that you must automate, but not complicate your business. I think there's lots of shiny objects out there, and you can spend a hell of a lot of money on useless software. So systems, absolutely. Software, just be very careful and mindful of whether you need that or not.
So did you just have like a Google Doc that you just kept updating and people start through?
Not
That's
even,
actually what we use most of
yeah.
the time.
Yeah, I had a good old, I think it was just a spreadsheet at the time, Mandy. But beautifully, the system that I ran with these co-hosts looking after a portfolio of properties through Airbnb and the co-host messaging system, of course, I could just assign 10 properties to that person, or 5 to the next person, and they could see all the messaging, they could do everything through there. They were in charge of scheduling themselves because they were cleaning. They were in charge of making sure that they could extend that guest stay. So it was I think what's really important is to, when you're delegating to a team member, is to give them responsibilities, but give them the power to run their own business, essentially. And it's about changing the narrative of not employing someone, not giving them a job, but giving them a business opportunity, and empowering them to run their own race. Certainly giving them KPIs and making sure that they are meeting your standards, but just giving them some freedom as well, and being able to say, look, if you want to put hot chocolate into the property as well as tea and coffee, go for it, but it's at your cost. If you think we're going to get good reviews, you put in whatever you like. And so I used to have that philosophy. So I would have some of my co-hosts putting in colouring in pencils and books for the children, lollies or chocolates. And I'm like, do whatever you want. But these are the standards, these are the basics, this is what I expect. And through that sort of that attitude, it really it served me well, and it brought back great reviews, more clients coming in wanting us to manage their homes, and of course some really good financial rewards as well.
Yeah.
I heard you talk about, well, once the systems and the teams were in place, that prior you were working 24 hours a day. Once you put the systems in place, you were working about 10 hours a week with 130 properties. Can you just talk about that?
So I knew I had made it, Adam, when I turned up to my office I was working on average 10 hours a week, 130 properties, 10 hours a week. I would turn up to my office. I had an actual physical office, and the girls would greet me by saying, "Stop. What are you doing? Don't touch anything." And I thought, yes, they know my business better than I know my business. They didn't want me touching their systems, mucking up their processes. But I had got to the point where I had decided I wanted to look after the financials. I wanted to work with the hiring and firing, and I wanted to do the marketing. But that was about 10 hours a week. The rest of it, I could outsource and I could delegate to others. But it was by putting in that really good framework, knowing making sure that people were responsible for certain. All I had to do was watch the reviews and making sure that we were getting 5-star reviews. As long as we were getting 5-star reviews and my phone wasn't ringing because there was a cranky owner on the phone, I was happy. I just let them do what they needed to do. But yeah, that was my goal, and I certainly achieved 10 hours a week. And then I went, bugger it, I'm going to sell the business totally, get into the education space and help others achieve the same. And that has been a goal that's been achieved as well. So I think it's really about getting clear and setting goals and then working towards them.
You briefly touched on it before, but you talked about multiple revenue streams. You had your own brokerage firm, right? So you'd find a client a deal, you'd help them furnish the deal, to charge them a design fee, furnish the property, and then you could go into basically the last step of managing after after they're up and running. You discuss that?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about my first client. That's probably the deal that, surprised me and my light bulbs were going off everywhere. I had a client that came to me. Looking for a positively geared property. Now that was like a unicorn. And I said to that lady, sorry, that just doesn't exist. But how about we create one? Let's go and look at 5 properties you'd like to vacation in yourself. We'll find one. And then let's turn it into a short-term rental. So we went out shopping. We looked at 5. She chose her one. So cha-ching, there was income stream number 1. I sold her a property. I said to her, now we need to furnish it. It's a blank canvas. You don't live here. How about I do that in my spare time? Gosh, at that time I must have had some spare time. I said, I'll furnish it, but I'm going to charge you a little furnishing fee. So cha-ching, there was income stream number 2. And then I said to her, now you don't live close by. I'm managing my own short-term rental. How about I manage yours? And I'm going to charge you 25% for that luxury. And cha-ching, there was income stream number 3. So there was multiple income streams from one particular deal. But it worked so well that 6 months later, she rang me and said, Jules, that was awesome. We're making so much money. I'm able to vacation in this property whenever I like. Can you go off and find me another one? So I went and found her a second property, repeated that process all again, and was able to jump on and get a second deal in place, and my second property on there for her. So it was pretty amazing. So it's
for people out there that might have 1 or 2 properties, they maybe a $1-2 million portfolio, they want to get to 10 million. What's advice that you would give to somebody today?
I think it's let's just be clear that you're very lucky these days. Adam, I know you mentioned before you read like 3 hours a day or something crazy. I'm obviously a reader and a writer myself. Read books, watch YouTube videos, watch every one of these 10 Minute Mogul series that you can get your hands on. The education out there is enormous, but you've got to be like a sponge and keep learning, always keep learning. Find yourself a mentor, find yourself a coach. Not saying that anyone in particular could help you coach, but I love working with people that have got that drive and that tenacity, that ambition to want to get to that scaling of their business, but might just need a helping hand. But the good news is there's plenty of options out there. There's lots of coaching programs, lots of community and mastermind programs, but simply books right behind the two of you. So much education, and just taking out some time during the day to read. and implement some of those learnings, a game changer.
Thanks for being on the 10-Minute Mogul, Julie. We really appreciate your time. Do you have any more questions? We're just going to see you. We're going to go to the VRMA.
Perfect. Well, folks, if you are listening in right now, the only thing I would say, and Randy mentioned it before, if you are listening in and you would like an ebook, a $1 Million Host ebook, which is going to tell you all the tips and tricks, please just find me on social media, Julie George, $1 Million Host. Send me a message or pop the word mogul in there, and we're going to make sure that we get you a copy of the $1 Million Host book. But guys, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time.